This podcast contains adult language and explicit content. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm Grant.
And I'm Erica.
And this is
From Crime to Crime.
Welcome back to Season 2, Crimeologists. We are so excited to have you back for Season 2 of From Crime to Crime.
Crimeologist? Did you spend the whole hiatus thinking of that?
Not the whole hiatus, but I was thinking of some new ones because I was thinking about this. Crime Junkie has Crime Junkies, so we can pick our own fan base nickname, and I think in Season 2, that's when we're going to hammer it home.
Okay. All right. Well, I bet you guys all missed us.
Well, hopefully not. We just came back from a really good Instagram Live with Drip Social, and we had a great time. So hopefully you guys caught us on there.
Yeah, that was actually a really fun interview.
It really was. For anyone who wants to check it out on our social media at From Crime to Crime on Instagram. It was really, really fun. Thank you again to Ty and Sam for having us on. We really did have a blast.
Yeah. So we're going to get into this case tonight because it's a pretty good one.
It is a good one. We picked a really well-known case to start off Season 2, and Eric and I were both very excited. We agreed on this one very quickly. Erica knew all about it again, and like myself, I had heard of it and forgotten everything about it. So it's a good chance for us to revisit.
Yeah, it is a very well-known case, but still when I tell people about it, they're like, who? I'm like, are you guys shitting me? You didn't watch every minute of this trial like I did?
And I think people know the name Jodi Arias, but I think knowing the story, people forget. But
yeah,
to tell the story as clearly as possible, we need to start with a little bit of background on Jodi Arias and Travis Alexander.
Yeah.
Jodi Ann Arias was born July 9th, 1980 in Salinas, California. She was the oldest of 4 kids, and her dad was a restaurateur. I like that word, restaurateur. And they moved a couple times in her childhood, but overall she was pretty normal and well-adjusted. Her parents, though, were pretty strict, and her adolescence seemed normal. She had good grades, but things took a bit of a turn in 8th grade. Her parents caught her growing a marijuana plant on the roof, and instead of, talking to her, punishing her, kind of going the normal route, they decided to call the cops. And I think it's really funny that they called the cops on a pot plant in their own house. I just think that that's a really funny thing.
Well, and their kid was so young, like, I'm sure that was their problem at that point. Like, when the cops showed up, they're like, yeah, we're not taking a 12-year-old to jail. Like, if we're taking anybody to jail, it's going to be you two. You own this house.
I didn't think about that, but you're probably right.
Yeah.
They probably were like, well, this is illegal.
Yeah, it seems a little over the top.
Her parents say that this is when she started lying and hiding things from them.
Well,
and Jodi was the type of girl who always had a boyfriend. She kind of morphed into the personality, into whatever current boyfriend that she had at the time. I've heard her described as a chameleon because she just absorbed whatever person she was around.
Yeah. We all know people like that.
Yeah, of course. And, I think I've even described myself as a chameleon at times, but not so much where I change everything. I kind of have my core of what I believe, and then I'm able to adapt to other people's surroundings. And I think that's important to have, but not completely change who you are.
Yeah, she took it to the next level.
Yeah, and by junior year of high school, she was already dating a guy that was 3 years older than her, and she had moved out of her parents and was with this boyfriend. Jodi was a part-time photographer and server to support herself. She was working at a restaurant when she was about 21, and she met a guy named Daryl Brewer, who was quite a bit older than her, about 19 years, and they started dating seriously in 2003. A couple years later, they bought a house together and moved to Palm Desert, California. This was at the height of the housing bubble in California, right before the market crash, so she needed extra cash to help pay for this house, so she got a different job working at a prepaid legal, which is an MLM, or a nice way to say
a pyramid scheme. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Multi-level marketing is just pyramid scheme in different words.
Right. Now we're going to tell you a little bit about Travis. So Travis Victor Alexander was born on July 28th, 1977. In Riverside, California. So the 909. Grant, you love the 909.
No, 909's gross. I don't like it. They don't even like themselves. They changed themselves to the 951 because they got associated with the 909. So no, don't like the 909. 909 doesn't like us. It's fine. It's a California thing.
Yeah. He was the oldest of his siblings also, and his parents were like a little bit into meth, which is very 909.
That is very 909. What do you mean a little bit into meth? I think either you're into meth or you're not into
Well,
meth.
they were into meth. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And later on, I'm pretty sure they got clean, but when he was growing up, it was bad. And he had a terrible home life. And him and his siblings were neglected and abused pretty bad. And by the age of 11, his grandmother, his paternal grandmother, eventually took him in. And later on, she would eventually take all 7 of his siblings in. And
7 siblings,
Yeah.
man. They're just doing meth and having sex.
so,
What a
well,
life.
his grandmother was a devout member of the LDS church. So that kind of, they're expected to have a lot of children.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. But Travis really dove headfirst into this faith with her. It, was one of those things that he felt like saved his life. And it really made him come out of his shell and became more confident and outgoing. And it helped him blossom in a way and do well in school. And it was really good for him. So he spent 2 years of his life in Denver on his mission, which is common. And then he went back home and he got a job with Prepaid Legal, the pyramid scheme. But he was actually very good at it because he was a natural salesman and he had a huge network within his LDS church. So he really thrived.
Oh, yeah. He probably did super well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
Yeah. And he even started moving his way up and he was doing a lot of public speaking engagements for them. And by 2004, he had decided to relocate to Mesa, Arizona. He was looking to buy a house, which is easier in Arizona. And the Mormon population in Mesa is huge compared to where he was living in California.
Yeah, so this made just perfect sense for him.
Exactly. So he bought a 5-bedroom house in Mesa and he rented out some of the extra bedrooms to fellow single Mormon men to help him with his mortgage because also he bought a house at the height of the housing
Yeah.
market. So even though it was in Arizona, it was probably a little less expensive than it would have been in California. It was still high, but he was doing really well.
So this brings us up to September of 2006, and Travis is at a conference in Las Vegas for prepaid legal, and he meets a young, attractive blonde named Jodi, and she's also there, and she's new to the company, just kind of getting a feel for everything, and he asked her to be his date to one of the executives' dinner, and initially she declined because she hadn't brought anything to wear, at least nothing that formal. But Travis's friend, his wife, actually brought a second dress, and so she lent it to Jodi, and off they all went to their gala.
Yep. And sparks were flying immediately between Travis and Jodi, and they spent that night together. And I don't know how long the conference lasted. I should have looked that up, but the sparks were flying immediately. And when they left Vegas, they stayed in touch. Jodi, soon after this conference, would go home and break up with Daryl. And her and Travis started this long distance relationship over the phone. And
Didn't she continue living with her ex-boyfriend, though, even after she broke up with him?
yes, because they owned a home together.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes a little sense.
Well, and
but
by the point that they're at right now, by the time this conference is and by the time they break up, they're upside down on their mortgage because they bought at the height. So they couldn't even
Right.
sell the house and split up. So they were still living together, but she was dating Travis over the phone, I guess. And like we had talked about before, her kind of being a chameleon, within 2 months she converted to LDS. Like that's
yeah,
quick.
that's pretty quick.
Yeah. And she is obsessed with Travis right from the get-go. And he's very attracted to her, but doesn't know if she's marriage material. And this is where things get very messy.
Very messy, but very interesting too,
Yes.
because Jodi and Travis officially started dating in the beginning of 2007, and they start having their little weekend rendezvous. They start having a sexual relationship, which is totally against the Mormon religion, both of their religions at this point.
Yeah.
So they kept that a secret, but it was kinky, to put it absolutely mildly. There were tons of sexting and phone sex going on here and in between weekend trips and things like that. Their relationship really seems like it's almost solely based on sex. And again, Jodi was obsessed with Travis and she wanted to marry him, but Travis was still talking to other women, trying to find that one good, pure Mormon wife, even though that's not the life he's leading at all. But it was becoming more and more clear that the more she gave him sexually, the less likely he was going to see her as marriage material.
Definitely. Because it was technically against their religion. And religion plays a huge role in this story, and I don't love it. just because, I mean, neither one of them were living the life they were publicly portraying.
Right. They were both very different in private.
Yeah. So when Jodi found out that he was still pursuing other women, she broke up with him in June of 2007. So they've known each other less than a year, and they dated for like less than 6 months. So
Yeah.
I don't think this breakup went the way she thought it was going to go. I think it backfired a little bit. I think she thought she was going to break up with him and he was going to come crawling back to her, but he didn't. And this is...
Sounds like she was almost solving a problem for him that he was trying to, get rid of in some way.
Yeah. And this is when Jodi does what any normal person in a long distance relationship that doesn't work out does. She moved to Mesa after they broke up.
That's the normal thing to do after you break up with somebody long distance.
I'm like, what the hell? Like, if that was an option, why didn't you move to Mesa while you were dating?
Yeah, exactly. She made that turn pretty quick.
Like, goodness sakes. So anyway, after she moves to Mesa, he's still dating other Mormon women and trying to find his wife. And, because they're not young. They're pushing 30, which is, quite frankly, old for LDS to get married and start a family. Like, it was kind of like, okay, get the show on the road. So he's dating other women. She doesn't love this. And she starts showing up at his house and throwing herself at him. And she did real psycho shit. Like, she would break in through the dog door and climb in his bed naked and just throw herself at him.
On the surface, that does sound pretty bad. Yeah. I get it. But as a guy, it wouldn't be the worst, and I wouldn't be that mad. So,
well, at first, especially I can see why.
At first, and he's still really into her. So it's not like this isn't unwelcomed. It's just she has to push more than she probably wants to. But he clearly doesn't mind.
Well, at first, I think he doesn't mind, but it does start to get...
Right.
Well,
yeah, I mean, sometimes she would just break in and sleep on his couch. She would hack his email and Facebook and read his journals. Travis even told his friends that Jodi slashed his tires, not once, but twice, and would threaten women that he dated. So at that point, that's too far. Slashing of tires is very scary stuff. Like, I don't think we talk about that enough, but like... to actually slash somebody's tires.
Oh, it takes a lot of effort.
It's a pretty violent act. You have to put some serious stabbing into that.
Yes,
so
you do.
That's a bit concerning right there.
Yeah, it's not as easy as like the movies make it seem. They don't just douche. Like it's
and threatening the women that he was dating. I mean, that's when it's like, okay, I got to get out of this. That's when he should have known. I got to do something. She was a stalker, but he kept sleeping with her and welcoming her when she would show up. So this is a real interesting route. It's a real fine line to be walking for him.
This is very flirting with fire because she's doing all this crazy stuff, but then he's like, well, we're still having sex. So she's getting like the affirmation from him that like, I do like you, even though I don't think he did. I think he just liked having sex with her.
Yeah, I don't think he really liked her. I think he just was really attracted to her.
Yeah, one, I think he was attracted to the fact that she was okay with it being a giant secret. Like, he could have his cake and eat it too. He could play the good Mormon boy and still be doing kinky sex stuff. That's so
right, because obviously he was dating other women and still sleeping with Jodi. So, he would date these good Mormon women, go home, sleep with Jodi, and then try to go date more good Mormon women.
Right. So eventually it seems like Jodi got the hint, though, because, she realized that Travis was never going to see her as the marrying type. And she was fun, but he wanted a nice Mormon, pure wife. So she does the first and probably only normal thing that she does in the history of their relationship or anything that happens after this. And in April of 2008, she moved home to Wairika, California to live with her grandparents.
Well, at least she finally did something.
Yeah.
But while she was there, things were going okay for Jodi, besides a break-in that was reported in May, where her grandparents reported to police that a handgun and some cash had been stolen that they kept in the home. Other than that, though, she was spending time with family, and she had just started dating another guy who lived in Salt Lake City, Utah. Then on June 2nd, Jodi rented a car in Redding, California to take a trip to Salt Lake City to visit this new boyfriend. She drove to Monterey to her ex-boyfriend's Daryl's house and borrowed 2 gas cans. Then she set off on her trip. Why can't she date a guy near her? Why does she have to find somebody who lives far away all the time?
I have a theory about that because that's how her and Travis' relationship was pretty much on the phone
Yeah.
and long distance. I feel like maybe there's something about that draws her to that kind of relationship. I don't know.
When Christina and I met, I told her it was a good thing she lived on the right side of the freeway. Otherwise, I wouldn't have crossed over because
Right.
it was just too far.
Yep. So, meanwhile, in Mesa, Travis had started dating and, he'd met a nice Mormon woman that he liked, whose name was Mimi, and he was very interested in. And they had talked for a while and been on a few dates, but it didn't seem to be going anywhere. She had made it pretty clear to him that she just wanted to be friends. She wasn't interested, but he wasn't going to give up that easily. And he had an all-expenses-paid trip for two to Cancun through his pyramid scheme of a job. And he asked her to go with him, and she agreed because who the hell would turn down a trip to Mexico? But she made it very clear they were going just as friends.
Oh, man. That's funny. That's funny. His pyramid scheme had a trip, and instead of taking the woman that's like throwing herself at him, he was like, "Hey, what about you?
Yeah, what about this girl who doesn't want
to
me?
just be friends?" Yeah. So, anyway, on June 9th, 2008, Mimi's getting ready to go out on this trip to Cancun with Travis, but she hadn't heard from Travis in a few days, and neither had anyone else. So she decided that she needed to go and knock at his house, and she knocked, but no one answered. And eventually, after calling a handful of friends to meet her at the house, one of them had the garage code and was able to open it up, and they were able to get in.
Yeah, and one of his roommates was actually home, but he was watching a movie or something in his room with his girlfriend, so he didn't hear the door. And when they knocked on his bedroom door, they were like, "Hey, where's Travis? And what the actual fuck is that smell?" But the roommate was like, "I don't know. I thought he was in Cancun. I haven't seen him in like a week." And they're like, "What? Like, are you kidding me?"
I love how oblivious this guy is to the smell,
I know.
because it can't be just a normal smell. Like, what's that? And like, wouldn't you investigate? Like, it's only going to get worse.
Well,
From everyone I've heard from, that smell is a very
yeah, but we haven't told the
unique
listeners what
smell.
the smell is yet, so...
Oh, well, I think they got
Yeah.
it. I mean, I think they know where this is going.
Well, yeah, this is a murder
But-
podcast.
Right. So at this point, the roommate finds the spare key to Travis's master bedroom and unlocks it and goes in. And immediately he sees blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And when he goes into the master bathroom, he sees Travis covered in blood, dead in his shower.
Ugh.
I can't even.
Yeah.
Could you imagine walking in on your roommate? No. And I'm sure that smell is probably creeping up a little more and more as they open that door.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. But at this point, the friends and the roommate call 911 and report what they found. And even in the 911 call, the friends mention Jodi by name as his stalker.
Isn't that
ex.
creepy?
Yeah.
I know. Listen to that call, and they're like, "Is anybody that's would want to hurt him?" And you're like, "Yeah, he has an ex named Jodi."
Yeah.
Like, well,
Who's been stalking
the
him.
original call. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a little kooky.
It is kind of crazy that they just went through this traumatic thing, finding their friend dead, and the first thing that comes to their mind is her. It's like, ooh,
Yeah.
she must have been pretty
Yeah, that's
stalkery.
right. That's not a good look for her.
No. So the investigators show up and they start trying to figure out why the roommates didn't notice the smell in the fucking house. They've been living in a house with a dead body for 5 days.
Yeah.
Like, are you shitting me?
Again, that's becoming increasingly worse. How are you not more concerned?
No, man. So the only thing I could think of was because maybe he was in the bathroom, in the bedroom, and the door was closed, but still, it's like, ugh. It's bad. So in the search of the house, they find out that the killer had tried to clean up. They missed a few things in their cleanup, like a bloody palm print on the wall and hair and DNA, but they did try to clean up because they found the sheets from the master bedroom in the dryer. They'd been washed. And then in the washer, they found a bunch of towels that had been washed, but mixed in with the towels, they found a digital camera. And I'm like,
See,
okay.
This is good police work.
Yeah, first of all, good police work. Second of all, those towels had been in the washer for 5 days.
Yeah, that stinks too.
Yeah, what were these guys living in? If I leave my clothes in the washer for like a half a day after they're done in the washer, I have to rerun them like 3 times because I'm convinced they stink.
I wonder, were they there the entire time, or did their dates overlap a little bit? So maybe they weren't there initially when all this started happening, so they didn't need to wash clothes. Although when you come home from a trip, you normally need to wash clothes pretty immediately. So
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't
That's the
know.
other thing. In 5 days, you guys never had to do a load of laundry?
yeah, I thought about that a lot too. Like, what do you mean? Like, I have to do laundry at least every 5th day.
I don't know. Maybe we're weird. Like, I feel like I do laundry every day in this house.
I feel like I do too, but there's 4 of us. There's only 2 of you, so
Yeah.
I think you guys do a little bit too much laundry.
I
sounds
think
like.
my husband's pretty obsessed with. I don't do any laundry. Matt does all of our laundry. I can't
Matt,
remember the last
tone
time
down
I
the
did
laundry
a
a
load
little.
of laundry.
It's a good thing he travels for work, I guess, so that some breaks in the water bill.
Yeah, the laundry builds up.
Yeah, exactly. So about that digital camera in the washer, the camera itself was wrecked, but the SD card that was still in it worked perfect, and the detectives used their, tech magic, did whatever they did, and they recovered the photos on the SD card. And what they found on the SD card, Erica, was shocking.
I know it was shocking. I've seen it.
I know. You wrote these notes, but there were pictures of Travis and Jodi in various sexual positions and states of being undressed and, more clothed and whatnot. And then there were a bunch of Travis in the shower. And there were a couple of photos taken of the crime scene. We think probably by accident when the camera dropped or was knocked out of her hand onto the ground or something like that. But there was even one of Travis's bloody body being dragged back to his bathroom, and the leg and foot of the killer, whoever it was in the picture. All of these pictures are dated and time-stamped, so at this point we have a pretty good reference to know that he was murdered right around 5:30 p.m. on June 4th.
Yeah, like exactly right around 5:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Like they know the second.
Exactly. Pretty much.
It's like, dang.
And they also know that Jodi was there at least up until the murder.
Yeah, because there's naked pictures of her on there too.
Right, exactly.
So, in the meantime, though, while they're doing all of this stuff, the autopsy of Travis is performed. And based on this autopsy, it turns out that he was stabbed 70... That's a lie.
That is a lie.
Based on the autopsy, it turns out that he was stabbed 27 times. His throat was cut ear to ear, and he was shot in the head. This explains why there was so much blood in the room and the bathroom. But also, that's 3 different ways to kill him. Like, any one of those 3 things was lethal.
Oh, yeah. She was out to make sure the job got done.
Yeah, like 27 times you were stabbed in the neck and the back and the chest. Like, are you kidding? And then your throat cut ear to ear.
And I know it was 5 days since it happened, but we've looked at some of these crime scene photos, and this is kind of what we do. We look at crime scene photos all the time, dead bodies, people mutilated, things like that. It is what it is. This one stuck with me.
Yeah.
I still think about it, so I really don't recommend anybody going and looking unless you're for sure wanting to see this, because it is startling and it stays with you.
Yeah, it's bad.
It really is.
It's very bad. Just violent.
It's gross. Yeah.
Yeah.
The investigators immediately start looking into Travis's roommates and friends, and they clear them, but a lot of them had implicated Jodi.
Yeah, but you know what? I can understand why they're looking into the friends and roommates, because who the fuck's living in a house with not only laundry
Yeah.
that's been in the washer for 5 days, but a body for 5 days?
Yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it makes sense.
But they cleared him right away, so.
But as they were looking into Jodi, this idiot calls the cops to let him know that she wants to help as much as possible in the investigation.
Well, that makes sense.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Man.
Killers
of
always
course
want
you
to
do.
put themselves in the...
Exactly.
They want to know
Like,
what
oh,
the
let me
cops
help you drive
know.
the car. She even came to Mesa to give her fingerprints and DNA.
Yeah.
Idiot.
I know. I'm like, you moron. You know you
You're
didn't
so
wear
you
gloves.
did it. You did this crime.
Yeah.
We know it. You know it.
Fucking lawyer up, man.
It would be a few weeks before all the evidence comes back, but when it does, surprisingly, it all points to Jodi.
Yeah, of course.
Weird. The palm print, the hair, the blood, and the pictures on the SD card all point back to Jodi.
Right.
And she just wanted to help.
Yep. So the investigators are taking a road trip to Wairika pretty quick. They're like, well, I guess
Yeah,
we're
no
going to have to
kidding.
go talk to Jodi for some pretty obvious reasons.
She might know something.
Yeah. So they pull her in for questioning. And at this point, it's been like a month since the murder. And she sticks to her gun. She says she was nowhere near Arizona on June 4th. She says she went to Southern California. She hung out with friends for like a day or so. And then it took her 2 days to drive to Salt Lake City, where her new boyfriend says she did arrive on June 5th. But there's a huge issue with this because Southern California is nowhere near on your way to Salt Lake City. from Wairika. So that's way out of the way.
Way out of the way.
Secondly, even if you're like, well, I have 5 days off work, so I'm just going to go visit my friends down here and then go visit my boyfriend up here. Okay. But the problem with that is that Salt Lake City is only like a 12-hour drive from Southern California. So her story was that she got lost and slept in her car for like 36 hours.
These lies aren't even good. Like, she's not even trying.
I know. But she also says that she borrowed the gas cans from her ex-boyfriend because gas was cheaper in California. And then she wouldn't have to stop anywhere and get gas, which is total bullshit because everybody knows that gas is cheaper in Nevada, Arizona, and Utah than it is in California. Like, that's common knowledge.
There's nothing. I don't think there's anything that's cheaper out here. Nothing.
I do.
When
I
we
know
go visit
one
you,
thing.
we make sure what is it?
Weed.
Weed. Okay. Cool. Weed is cheaper here
Yeah.
than it is anywhere else. Cool. We have that to claim. Great claim.
Do the kids still call it weed?
Well, I haven't checked with today's youth, but I would think they call it, weed or pot or
Okay. Well, because I was like, do we sound like old people that were like, oh, weed?
the weed. I think
I call it the
as long as we don't
pot.
call it the weed. Yeah, the pot. I think it's fine.
Okay, good. I'm like, we could be like 70s old people and be like, the reefer.
Ooh, I like it. Reefer madness.
Yeah. Okay,
I
yeah.
believe
We're
only
done.
thing we have out here that is cheaper is weed.
Yeah.
And yet we have to pay more for gas.
Well, you pay more for everything. That's what I'm saying. Weed is the only thing I can think of that's cheaper in California than it is anywhere else. Like, so that lie, like you said, her lies aren't even good. Like, if you're going to say something about the gas cans, just be like, I'm a girl alone driving on a road trip. I didn't want to stop at a creepy gas station in the middle of the night.
That is a good one. Good job. Was that off the top of your head?
No, but I've taken gas cans on road trips by myself before. Not to kill anybody,
Yeah?
but just so you don't have to stop.
Oh, I've never thought to do that.
Yeah. Well, that's because you're not a girl driving alone
not.
at night.
It's true.
Like, girls have to plan for shit like that
I know. Sorry about that.
so that we don't end up on a murder podcast.
I'd cover your case so well.
Oh, would you?
Well enough.
I don't know who you would get to co-host it with you.
Probably Ashley Flowers. So, also,
Okay.
when she got to Salt Lake City, the boyfriend realized that she was a brunette, and last he had known of her, she was a blonde.
Oh,
so
that's probably a big
that was
surprise.
a little strange.
He's like,
It probably is, but it's probably not something that stands out to him very quickly.
I would be like, excuse
people
me, my
change their hair
girlfriend's
color.
blonde. I don't even like brunettes. Like, what the hell?
People change their hair colors though, so I don't think he even noticed. I don't think this was a red flag to him. I mean, knowing what we know now,
Yeah.
sure. But at the time, he was probably just like, "Oh, great, you changed your hair color. That's wonderful. You look beautiful."
Do you know what I think with Jodi? I really think
you
she
think with
watched
Jodi?
like bad, scary movies, and she's like, "Oh, when people are on the run, they dye their hair." Like, what did that have to do with anything?
You think she was watching Scream?
Yeah, like I don't know what that had to do with anything.
Well, I think just so. Yeah, that's a good point because who was she trying to blend in or something? She went to the cop. She told him who she was.
No, I'm like,
What are they gonna do? Just look at the hair, like, oh man, she's a brunette. This one was a blonde
Yeah,
hair.
whatever.
They won't match.
anyway.
The weird thing though was that she had cuts and band-aids on her hands, and she says that she got them bartending. So, I mean, again, these lies aren't even good.
No.
But at this point, Detective Flores knows that Jodi did this.
Yeah.
He has pictures, DNA, fingerprints, hair. He knows her cell phone was turned off when she left Southern California to when she was almost to Salt Lake City. And even the palm print in blood on the wall.
Right.
And give credit to Jodi because she didn't budge, and she swears she was never in Arizona. The detective even shows her the nude photos, and she tries to play it off that his timestamp on his camera was off. Of all things. Of all things.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like she just like watched a bad like horror movie and she's like, nope. It's like, also ask for a lawyer, you idiot. But she doesn't.
Yeah.
She just swears she never went to Arizona, even though there was like a 36-hour gap in her fucking alibi. And yeah.
What happened here? I was lost.
Yeah. So Jodi's fucked at this point, but you wouldn't know it watching her because the detective tells her she's being arrested for murder. And this bitch asks if she can touch up her makeup before they take her mugshot.
I love that.
I'm like, are you shitting me? Like, first of all, after you murder somebody and you know the cops are onto you because you've given your DNA and fingerprints to the cops who are investigating the murder you did, Wouldn't you think you would just be wearing makeup all the time if you were that shallow? I would just be wearing makeup all the time in case they came and got me.
I can see that. Yeah, I get what you're saying. you're saying. I just think this is so funny though that she just was just trying to be so like helpful, and she just walked into it. Like, just distance yourself. Go away. Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about. Who? Travis? I don't know anything about that. But nope, she like walked
right into
face first into this.
So this is how self-absorbed and vain and shallow she is. And obviously Detective Flores was like, oh, no, we're just going to book you on the murder charges. And in her mugshot, she smiles for the camera. It's like, you do understand you're being arrested for murdering your boyfriend, right?
And you're claiming you didn't do it.
Yeah, this is the weirdest. It is so off.
This is not time to be happy.
Yeah.
It is. It's so
like,
weird.
Her mood is so off. So anyway, before they take her to the clink, she's in the interrogation room. You know how they like leave them alone. And
the clink?
What, you don't call it the clink?
Oh, what are you? What are you, a 1920s drunk?
I don't know. I don't know.
I just go to the clink tonight.
Anyway, you know how they leave them in the interrogation room and then they video them to like see what kind of stupid shit they do? Well, Jodi was a hoot because she was doing like yoga poses, like headstands up against the wall. She was singing Christmas carols in July, which should be a crime all on its own. Like,
I think she was charged for that, actually. I think I saw that. She was charged for singing Christmas carols in July.
But she was like talking to herself and stuff in the interrogation. She was calling herself a brat, and she said, oh, you should have totally put makeup on, Jodi, you brat. Like, weird stuff. Like, ugh.
Yeah, she's losing it.
She's awkward.
Oh, it's totally. But they let her spend the night in jail again before they tried to interview her. And my goodness, what one night in jail can do for a story. She was singing a whole new song, and it wasn't a Christmas carol.
Nope, it was a Dido song, actually.
It was a Dido song in the day 2 of the interrogation room. Great. Yeah. Was it that one with Eminem?
No, it was some other one that nobody knows. Yeah.
So now her story is, she not only was there, she witnessed the murder. She says that she was taking pictures of Travis in the shower when, out of nowhere, a man and a woman came in and shot him. They stabbed him and they slit his throat, and then they let her live because they looked at her ID and car registration and they knew her address, and they told her that if she told a soul, they would come kill her too. That sounds like something people who ruthlessly kill people would do, is look at your ID card and
just
say,
leave eyewitnesses.
Yeah, just card you before they go and say, I know your address. You can't move.
Yeah,
now.
that sounds like cold-blooded assassins.
Yeah,
totally.
Out for blood.
So this story became known as the Ninja Theory, and she would tell it over and over and over for the next 5 years to anybody who would listen to her. She granted every media interview that asked her to do one. Like, everyone. I'm pretty sure if we had a podcast back then, she probably would have talked to us.
Is it too late? Do you think she stopped talking?
I don't know if she's allowed to anymore because now she's been convicted.
Yeah, I know. I thought about that too.
But she's so vain and like, she goes on every TV thing that she can. She just wants to get her story out there. She tells this ninja story, and even in the 5 years before they go to trial, the ninja story even evolves. Like, it started out one way, and then she gets in a fight with the woman, and she's pushing her off, and she's fighting him, and she's yelling at Travis, let's go, let's run. And he's like, bitch, I've been shot in the head. I'm not running anywhere. Her story totally just, like, it evolves over, like, the 5 years. It's really insane.
She may be a hero after all of this. You never know.
Well, to hear her tell it by the end of it, she was a hero.
So it took 5 years to take all of this to trial, and it was worth the wait. The shenanigans and the interviews she gave are insane. Prosecutor Juan Martinez really did have his job cut out for him, and by the time the trial started in January of 2013, she was already the most hated woman in America.
Yeah.
And the state had already decided to seek the death penalty.
Yeah, but that complicated things a bunch because the state would have to prove premeditation, not just like heat of the moment crime of passion. And that made it a little harder for them seeking the death penalty, but they thought it was worth it. And the court was flooded with people. People were literally like fighting over seats to get to this trial.
That's insane. That's insane that people wanted to be in the courtroom for this kind of stuff so badly.
Well, and that's why HLN carried the trial. They covered the trial.
Yeah, I remember it was a huge deal. People really cared about what was going on. It was on the news every night. Yeah. It was front page, stories and whatnot. So when the trial starts, the state opens up with their theory that Jodi killed him in a planned, calculated attack. But when Jodi's attorneys started stating their case, it was obvious from the start that her story was going to change yet again. She now is claiming that Travis was abusive to her physically and sexually, and he was a pedophile, and she killed him in self-defense because he was attacking her.
Yeah. So the ninja theory's out.
Ninja theory is
that
out.
she's literally been saying for 5 years. Now she's a battered woman. So this is getting interesting.
It took her a long time to get there. I would have thought that would have been more like first, second story. But
oh, do you know why it took her so long to get there? Because she didn't get there until she had a lawyer. If she would have called a lawyer the first day, she would have been there. I mean, I'm glad she didn't. I'm glad she talked.
But
to the
why?
cops.
But what reason would you have to not hire a lawyer at this point? Like, all signs are pointing to, yeah, you should probably get a lawyer now.
Well, Jodi is very articulate and very manipulative, but she's not very smart.
That's true.
It's weird because she speaks like she is, but she's really not. So the trial is really where we learn like what really actually probably happened. And according to the state's argument, Jodi and Travis had been talking again after the breakup and after she had moved to California after the crazy stalking and all that stuff. They started talking again and phone sex and planning trips to see each other. And it's like, dude, she left. You got away from her. What are you doing? But they were. And Jodi even recorded one of these phone sex sessions that they played in its entirety in open court at the trial. And it is awkward as it gets.
Can you imagine being in court with a room full of people and you're sitting there and they have to play that for the entire room and you just have to sit there and relive all of that?
No. And it's so uncomfortable. Like, her family's there, his family's there, the lawyers. It was so uncomfortable. The judge had to like give a precursor, like, hey, we're going to play this audio. If you're uncomfortable with it, you need to leave because there'll be no reactions. And everybody sat there silently. Like, it was weird. And it was just, the call itself was weird. They both sound very immature. Like, when you listen to it, you're like, are these 30-year-olds or are these 12-year-olds? Like, I don't get it. Like, they don't sound like adults. And I will be the first to admit, like, phone sex is not really my game, so I don't know. Like, I guess maybe this is how it works, but they would be like talking normal, and then they'd be like doing awkward moaning things, and then they'd be like singing Alanis Morissette. And it's like, what is happening here? Because Alanis Morissette has never come into my sex life ever.
I don't know.
Like, isn't that like, do you think it was a normal call?
No, it really was uncomfortable to listen to. But the thing to me that makes it the most uncomfortable is at one point he says to her that she was moaning like a 12-year-old girl having her orgasm for the first time. And one, that's disgusting on every level. And it doesn't help him not sound like a pedophile because he's saying these words. Those words come out of his mouth. So maybe that's the lawyer spinning it and telling her, hey, Jodi, tell everyone that he's a pedophile because he's not doing himself any favors by saying that. Yeah. It's more than awkward. It's terribly uncomfortable.
No, it's disgusting. And some of the stuff that they said to each other was foul as shit. Like, we're not even going to repeat it
really
on this
weird
podcast because it's disgusting. It's not even like at the point where it is, it's not even kinky. It's just gross and weird.
Yeah, your and Christine's mom listens to this. We can't have that kind of stuff on here.
No, I wouldn't say it out loud. Like, those words aren't going to come out of my mouth. Some of the stuff that they were talking about to each other, I'm like, no, that's not happening. So it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's not even like kinky or hot. It's like, this is weird.
Yeah, it really is. It's all very strange stuff.
It's twisted. It's twisted as shit. And I feel like part of it is because of the whole, like, they have all this like self-loathing because of the religion. Like, this is against their religion. But then they're doing it anyway. Yeah. And they're not just doing it. They're like doing it grossly. Like.
Uncomfortably.
Yeah. Like, and it's like, do whatever you want that makes you happy. But like, if it's not making you happy and it's against your religion and it's making you feel like crap, stop doing it.
Yeah. Okay. So back to the state's version about what happened. We learned they were back to talking at least, but then June 2nd, Jodi drives to Redding, California, rents a car, then drives south to spend the night at Daryl's, her ex-boyfriend. Then she borrows 2 gas cans from Daryl and fills them up in Pasadena, California, whoop whoop, on the 3rd and heads out. This is when she also turns her phone off.
So she filled up at an Arco gas station in Pasadena, California. Is that the Arco that you found our sticker at?
Yeah, I think it is. Well, I did find it in Pasadena at an Arco, so I can't promise. But
well,
hey.
I'm sure there's more than one Arco in Pasadena, but we're just going to say it's the same one.
And I'm sure there's people putting our stickers everywhere, so it could be.
I figured that was you or your wife.
I'm not saying it wasn't either that, but I'm not saying it was or it wasn't.
Yeah. So she arrives at Travis's early in the morning on June 4th, which is kind of awkward. It's like, what the fuck time did she leave Pasadena?
Yeah, really weird time.
Because it says that she got to Travis's somewhere around 3 or 4 in the morning on June 4th. It's like, what, did she leave at 10 o'clock at night or midnight? Like, it doesn't take that long to get to Mesa. Like,
no,
that seems...
but she's already doing weird stuff, so just,
yeah, that just seems
continue
weird to,
on
like,
that path.
Start out on a road trip in the middle of the night. That seems kind of stupid, but anyway.
Yeah.
They spend all day in bed doing things that Mormons are super not allowed to do. And we know this for sure because of all the pictures they took of themselves doing it.
And around 5:30, there are pictures of Travis in the shower. And this is where the state believes that she attacked him, stabbing him 27 times in the back, chest, neck, and head. Then she slits his throat from ear to ear and then shot him in the head for good measure.
Yeah. So then there are a few blurry pictures of Travis's bloody body being drugged back into the shower, which we kind of touched on before. And she puts the sheets in the washer, cleaned up some of the blood, then put the sheets in the dryer, put all the bloody towels in the wash and the digital camera, and turned it on and left.
About 6 hours after the murder, she turned her phone back on and called Travis and left him a nonchalant voicemail about how she got lost in the desert and she's sorry she isn't going to make it to Mesa on her way to Salt Lake City. Obviously, Mesa is nowhere near on the way to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, but I think what that phone call was just like her being like, oh, I'm not going to make it. Like trying to be like all, not like they had plans to meet up and she didn't make it, even though she did make it.
She did, I know.
I know. So she arrived in Salt Lake to visit the boyfriend that she originally set out to see on this batshit road trip that she's taking. And she arrived there on June 5th and she hung out with him, had sex like it was normal, and then just leave Salt Lake City early the next morning. I'm like, you did this whole 4-day road trip to spend less than 24 hours in Salt Lake City?
Yeah, she just needed to get up there to confirm her alibi that she was there. Like,
yeah.
That's all she really cared about. She didn't care about seeing this guy.
Yeah, which is really
just needed to get up
stupid
there.
because I feel like her alibi would have been better if she just left California, drove straight to Arizona, did this, and drove straight back to California.
Probably, yeah.
Like, this road trip is what made her be an idiot.
Yeah, of course. There's so much going on with the road trip and so much time loss
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah, she absolutely shoots herself in the foot with that.
Yeah.
But Jodi's defense is pretty much the same story, except that he attacked her in the shower, and that's why she killed him. And it wasn't planned. It was in the heat of the moment kind of a thing, which none of the evidence backs up. The trial goes on forever. Jodi herself testifies for 18 days.
Yeah.
And this makes for some pretty intense moments.
Yeah. You know what's funny is, like, researching this case and having, like, watching a lot of that trial testimony and stuff. After, like, 20 minutes of her talking, I'm like, I want to shoot you in the face.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having to listen to her for 18 days. Like, she is so nails on the chalkboard. Not even, like, the sound of her voice or anything, just what she says.
Yeah, and I think, too, you have a hard time hearing it because it's pretty open and shut. We kind of know what happened and why.
Yeah, but...
we know what happened now, so it is probably harder for us to think about it. I imagine, I don't know, that's over 2 weeks of just listening to her talk.
Oh, I know. And the prosecutor, Juan Martinez, he's a little guy, but he's fierce as shit, and he's relentless. And he just gives it to her, like, on the stand, calling her out on her bullshit and her lies, and they go back and forth, and she challenges him, and he tells her she's stupid, pretty much. Like, it's pretty crazy. Like, there was points where she was, like, crying, and he started, like, kind of yelling at her, and he's like, were you crying when you shot him? Were you crying when you stabbed him? Were you crying when you slit his throat? And this bitch was like, I don't know. I'm like,
oh my God.
You don't know, or you don't remember, or you don't recall? That's like all she said the whole 18 days. She was in a fog. She can't remember.
But because she says, I don't know, he starts asking her if she has memory problems.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, is this of recent vintage? That's a quote from him. And she's like, what do you mean recent? He's like, oh, I don't know, since you started testifying.
Some of these moments were like pretty good. I was like, Juan, you're pretty funny.
Good job, Juan.
I know. I'm like, I mean, I think he's doing good in his career, but I'm like, you could have gone another way with that. Yeah, there was just crazy stuff that went on in this trial. Like, it was just day after day. There was always something to, like, report about. Like, there was a juror that got dismissed because they got a DUI during the trial.
Oh, my gosh.
I know. Exes were testifying about different interactions with them and Travis, and it was intense, a lot of it. And he was even asking her, like, what was the point of leaving a dead man a voicemail? Like, if you didn't plan this and it wasn't, you know, like, it wasn't premeditated, what was the gas cans about? What was leaving him a voicemail? And it's like, she doesn't have any answers for this. So she just, like, says she's in a fog, and, you know, she's trying to, like, play the battered woman that, like, snapped and fought back. So she's trying to act, like, meek and mild. But then when she'd go at it with Juan, he did, like, a super awesome job of, like, bringing out her true colors. Like, she's a bitch. Like, she was not, like, this little meek and mild battered woman. Like, she was a fucking bitch. Like, there's no other word. She was a bitch. After 4 months of this charade, Juan gives his closing arguments, and then Jodi's attorneys gives his closing arguments, and he even says, it's not about whether you like her or you don't like her. 9 days out of 10, I don't like her.
I love when he says that.
So it's like, he knows that people hate her, and it's going to be hard to get these people not to convict her, but he's got to be, like, doing something because he doesn't want her to get the death penalty. Like, we all know, you know.
Yeah, because it was never really a question of if she did it, just whether or not it was premeditated is really what we're trying to come up with. So the jury deliberated for a while, like 15 hours or something like that, and comes back with a guilty of first-degree premeditated murder, and a bunch of them voted guilty on felony murder.
So now the penalty phase begins, which in Arizona is decided by a jury trial. So,
which is a lot to put on other people, by the way. I think a jury trial is so much to put on just regular peers that are out. Like, I just feel like that is such so much pressure to put on somebody.
Yeah.
Like, but
it's a heavy burden, which is why it's a heavy burden to prove it, to get it. So, like, you know, it's not supposed to come easily.
I guess that's true. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it's not one of those things that should just come easily. So this penalty phase starts, and Travis's siblings give their victim impact statements, and they're pretty clear that they wanted the death penalty. Like, they gave interviews and stuff. They're like, yep, we want her to die. So can't blame them.
Can't, no.
But Jodi, when talking to the media in her countless interviews from, like, the 5 years before the trial, always said that if she was convicted of Travis's murder, she wanted the death penalty because it was the ultimate freedom, and she just wanted her freedom. But now the time's here, and she's like 180 and is pleading for the jury to spare her life. The reasons that she gave them to spare her life were the most bananas things I can even, like, to me, it's like, yeah, plead for your life. I get it. You don't want to die. But she literally was like, I designed this shirt, which was not a design. It was a white shirt with the word survivor on it. And she's like, I designed this shirt, and all the proceeds are going to go to victims of domestic violence. And I'm like, oh my God, you didn't design
What a
that.
hero. What a hero.
I know, right? And then another one of her reasons for them sparing her life is because she's been growing her hair and cutting it and donating it to Locks of Love. So if they give her the death penalty, she won't be able to donate her hair to Locks of Love.
Well, I guess it worked because they came back deadlocked.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what worked. I think her being on the stand for 18 days, I think those people could not kill her. Maybe.
Right. It humanized her. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they have to be unanimous for the death sentence. So it was a hung jury, and the judge declared a mistrial. So here we go. We have to do it all again.
Yep. And the second penalty trial ends the same way, but closer. It was like 11-1 for the death penalty. So she really snuck by the skin of her teeth here. So in Arizona, though, you only get 2 shots. So the judge had to do the sentence because they tried for the death penalty twice. They couldn't get it. So then now the judge has to decide if she gets life with or life without parole. And the judge sentences her to life without.
I think that's probably the best way to go.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
after she went to prison, her brother started selling her artwork to pay to go visit her. And she's tried appealing a few times, and thankfully they've all been denied. They're not going to let her out. But
No.
so let's talk about what we think happened here. What do you think actually happened?
See, this is where I kind of go back and forth because I do think it was premeditated big time. I think the gas cans, turning her phone off, like she did so many things to make sure that she wasn't caught in Arizona, like on cameras or at gas pumps or receipts and all that stuff. So I think in a way it was very premeditated. But I don't know. My theory has always kind of been that she heard about this trip to Cancun and that he was taking another woman, and she was just like, fuck it, I'm going to go to Arizona. I'm going to tell him, take me, be with me, whatever. And if he doesn't, I'm going to kill him. I think she went there with like the plan to kill him if the visit didn't go the way she wanted it to go.
So you think she walked in and gave him an ultimatum, either take me or, this is over. And then once he didn't say, I'm going to take you, she said, okay, your life's over. You think that's what happened?
Kind of, yeah, I really do. Or once she got there for their secret rendezvous, then he said something that made her snap, or she found out about the Cancun trip and that she wasn't going, and then she snapped. The problem with that is all the premeditation. Like, she knew that there shouldn't be a trace of her going to Arizona that weekend.
I think you're right. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense.
So, like, the
that she-
snapping in the heat of the moment doesn't make sense. Like, she had a plan.
No, that doesn't. Right. And I mean, I think there's a lot of evidence to back up that she had a plan between turning her cell phone off, having extra gas cans, 36 hours unexplained.
Right.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think an ultimatum would even make a lot of sense too on that. But
And I don't know why, but I can't find it anywhere. Like, the weirdest thing about the whole thing to me is that they never found the knife and they never found the gun.
yeah, I've thought about those too.
And she was able to get rid of those. Why didn't she put the fucking camera with the knife and the gun? I've never understood why she left the camera. As a photographer, she had to know that those pictures were recoverable.
Yeah, you would. Well, as a photographer, I don't know how much of a photographer she actually was, but you're right. She should know at least those kind of bare basics. But again, she just killed somebody. She may not have even realized that the camera was in those sheets and just put it all in there. It started the wash and gone.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
prob-
In the
maybe-
haste
and
of
maybe didn't
cleaning
even
up.
think about the camera again. Maybe she did and didn't know where it was and just said, okay, I got to go. But it
Yeah,
might have just
maybe.
been happenstance that accidentally got in there. I think what happened, what we know and what the state portrayed, I think that's pretty close to what happened.
Yeah.
I think that these two were just enthralled with each other in a very
Toxic.
animalistic, toxic but animalistic way. Like, I don't think they even really liked each other. Travis very well may have loved her, and maybe that's why he couldn't give up on her. Maybe
Yeah,
he
maybe.
did want something with her, but he just knew that he couldn't have what he wanted because according to his faith,
Yeah.
she wasn't the type of woman. I don't know. I think that both of these people are living double lives and liars and cheaters and adulterers and everything. I don't think what happened to him was deserved and all that, but
No.
I don't think
No, we're not
that-
victim blaming at all or anything, but
Not
they
at all, but-
definitely both made poor choices at every turn.
Well, and I think his poor choices because he loved her
Yeah.
is kind of what led to this, because I think if he had not cared about her as much, because I do think it was very passionate and things like that, but I think he really did care about her. If he hadn't, then I don't think he would have continued allowing her back time and time again.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was that drove him crazy about her, but there was definitely something about it. Maybe it was just the attention.
Well,
maybe she
I
just
think a
gave
lot
him
of it was
better
the
attention.
sex. I mean,
Well, true.
he
for
was
sure.
getting something from her that he wasn't getting from anybody else that he was dating,
Very true. And that's the attention. I mean, it's physical attention, but
Of
yeah.
course, yeah. I also think that if she was a man and she killed her boyfriend, like if this was opposite roles, like
Totally.
if everything that happened in this story was exactly the opposite, I feel like she would have got the death penalty.
Probably. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I feel like that's part of what happened in this story too. Like, if Jodi was a man and she was doing slashing tires, sneaking into his girlfriend's house, you know what I mean? Like, the stuff that she was doing, if she would have been a man, like, you would have had a restraining order in a heartbeat. Like, I don't think people took it seriously enough because she was a woman.
And I think too, like you're right, it roles reversed. I mean, I think people in her life would have stepped up and been like, "Hey, like we'll help you, we'll get you, the protection you need, like that kind of stuff." But because it was a man,
Mm-hmm.
they knew that she was stalking him. It was pretty clear. Everybody knew that, they implicated her at the very beginning with the 911 call.
Right. But I just think that the physical threat wasn't like, I don't think
True. No,
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't think they looked at it like, oh my God, she's going to kill him. But although I've heard people say that they were like, hey, we're going to find you chopped up in her freezer someday, like in a joking way. But I think that it wasn't taken as seriously as it should have been. Like, this behavior is big time red flags. Like, if you're dating somebody that does this kind of shit, get the fuck out.
Immediately.
Yeah,
please.
and stop sleeping with them.
Also good. Life rule 9, actually.
Yeah, because it's like there were so many chances for them to disconnect. Her moving back to California, her never living in Arizona to begin with. Like, there were so many chances for this to end without it getting to this point, but they just couldn't let it go. It's really kind of ugh.
Yeah. It's gross. It's creepy. It's weird, but that's why we covered it.
Yeah. Makes you glad you're not single, huh?
They met in person, too. That's not even online dating. You usually think if you're going to meet somebody online, they're going to kill you, but these guys met in person.
Yeah, but I will say they met at a convention for a pyramid scheme. So, I mean,
That's true.
Bottom
It
of
was
the
set up.
barrel people. I'm not going to say that, but that's what I'm thinking.
Oh, man. I wish you could say it, but all these fucking Arbonne people will be nuts. Oh.
Do you know people who like get involved in this kind of shit? They're not like the sharpest tools in the shed.
No, fucking Arbonne chicks are all over that stuff, Like, oh, it's not a pyramid, it's multi-level marketing. Like, oh, how does it work? Well, I start selling something, and then I get a team of people underneath me who start selling something, and then they build
get
their
a team of
teams up.
people.
Yeah, and it's like, and where are you? Oh, well, I'm on the top, and I have all these people behind me. Oh, so it's shaped like a what?
Yeah.
Like a triangle.
You want me to draw this out or what?
Yeah.
Pyramid
Hey,
scheme.
Michael Scott, let me draw this for you.
That's exactly what I think of.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, it was great to get back into season 2, buddy.
Glad to be back into the thick of it and just going for it again. Again, thank you to everybody who has followed us and listened and cared about what we're doing. We've been having so much fun, and it's because of you that we get to keep having fun. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and if you guys have any case suggestions for the rest of this season, we've gotten a lot of good suggestions through emails and on Instagram, but we're still open to more because we don't know how many episodes season 2 is going to be because we're not that committed to it.
I'm pretty committed to it.
No, I'm kidding. We're super committed to it. We already know our first 27 cases, but
Yeah, we don't know what season 3 is going to look like yet.
yes.
And
We're
4
still
and
open
5
for
and 6.
suggestions.
We want to do what you want to hear.
Yeah. So don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes and wherever you listen to podcasts. Mostly iTunes because I think that's the only one you can rate on.
I think so.
And don't forget to come to our Instagram at From Crime to Crime and leave a comment on your theory about Jodi Arias and her lunacy.
Just tell us what you think. We'd love to talk to you guys on there and just have that kind of dialogue going back and forth. So,
All right, buddy.
all right, I think that's it for this one.
Okay, I'll talk to you next week.
All right, I love you.
I love you too.
Bye.
Bye.